I will never forget. It was one of the most meaningful moments in my whole life. I had some kids that thought playing handbells was fun, but then they saw the Raleigh Ringers play, probably the most accomplished handbell group there is. Well, that turned up their enthusiasm. One young lady asked me on the way home, and we're talking about a fourth grader, "Can you teach us to play like that?" I thought about that. I had majored in music for 2 years, but kind of poorly. So my brain's first impulse was, "Are you kidding me?" But I believed in her enthusiasm and their excitement. I told them that they could be as good as they wanted. They just needed to want it and believe that they could do it and try to learn it. After a while, the first young lady wanted to learn to play a solo on handbells. Well, we chose Pachelbel's Canon, a 2-page, very difficult and challenging piece. They also decided as a group they wanted something really hard. They were believing. I had turned off all the negative voices and reasons and excuses in my mind and simply believed in their potential. They would have to hold 2 bells in each hand at different times, move up and down the table, work as a team, and set aside all fear. It was a 5-page, intense piece of music. The hardest thing the handbell company had. 3 young kids, 3 octaves of handbells, memory, coordination, and then there was one I didn't realize, strength. The youngest girl was in front of the biggest, heaviest bells. The music called for her to pick up 2 of the biggest bells, which are made of brass, in one hand, and then one in the other, and then the 2 had to ring at the same time. She couldn't really get them off the table, and it wasn't easy for me either. And she said, "I can't do it. They're too heavy." I said, "Just work on it. I know you can. I've seen you do some amazing things." Well, every time I was working with the other 2, I would catch her out of the corner of my eye, trying. Well, one day we were practicing in the church. We were playing the piece, sort of, or practicing it. And I was looking down at the music, trying to keep up, listen, and direct. Then all of a sudden, there was this ear-piercing, terrifying scream. I about jumped out of my skin along with everybody else. It was the youngest girl. She started yelling, "I did it! I did it!" Tears were streaming from her eyes. Victory. She said, "You told me I could." I'll never forget that look on her face. The tears, the joy, the triumph, the victory. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about believing what someone had said about her. That one moment of trust changed everything. They mastered that piece, and they played it multiple times in public. And you know what? That's exactly what Jesus does for us over and over again in the Gospel of John. Jesus meets people who feel stuck, unsure, afraid, or unqualified, and he invites them to believe, to trust, and to act. He doesn't wait for perfection. He just says, "Give me what you got. Take the step, follow my lead." These moments are signs. That's what John calls them, showing us what it looks like to move from fear to faith, from stuck to strength. Let's move through a few of these moments together and see how Jesus transforms lives, just like he still does today. Jesus didn't just rise from the dead for us to celebrate the empty tomb. He rose so that we could live transformed lives, lives where fear no longer holds us back, and where we trust in his ability to change our circumstances. In John's Gospel, we see signs that show us how transformation happens when we listen to Jesus and trust in him. These signs help us move from fear to faith, from stuck to strength. Well, the first sign happens at the wedding at Cana. Jesus tells the servants, "Fill the jars with water." They do, and the water turns into wine. This teaches us that Jesus can take something simple and transform it into something beautiful. We don't have to have everything figured out. We just need to give him what we have, even if it's something small. The second sign is about a man who had been sick and waiting for healing for 38 years. Well, Jesus didn't ignore his struggle or shame him for not being better. Instead, he asked a simple, compassionate question: "Do you want to be made well?" This moment wasn't just about physical healing. It was about hope, dignity, and the courage to take a step forward. Whether we feel stuck emotionally, spiritually, or in our circumstances, Jesus meets us there, and he calls us forward with love. He said, "Get up and take your mat and walk." Well, the third sign is when Jesus feeds 5,000 people with a small lunch, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Jesus says, "Bring me what you have." When the disciples obey, everyone has enough to eat. Jesus shows us that what we offer, even if it seems small, can become something bigger when we trust him. The fourth sign, Jesus heals a blind man. He tells the man to go wash in the pool of Siloam. Even though he couldn't see what was ahead, he trusted Jesus, and that trust led to healing and new life. Sometimes we don't understand the steps we need to take, but if we trust Jesus and follow his directions, we can experience healing and change. The fifth sign is about the catch of fish. The disciples had been fishing all night without success, but when Jesus tells them to cast the net on the right side of the boat, they catch so many fish that they can't even pull the net in. This teaches us that when we listen to Jesus, even when it feels like nothing is working, he can bring success and abundance. You know, the thing about transformation is that transformation is different for each and every person. Finally, we see Jesus restore Peter after his failures. Peter had denied Jesus 3 times, but Jesus didn't shame him. Instead, he asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" And then says, "Feed my sheep." It's another example of a simple instruction from Jesus that leads to restoration and to purpose. The Greek words indicate that he trusts Peter to love and care for his people the way that Jesus has. Jesus lets him know that he believes he can do it. Jesus gives Peter a new purpose, even after all of his mistakes. This shows us that Jesus believes in us, even when we messed up. And he gives us the chance to try over and over again. The 5 signs show us how Jesus invites us to follow him and trust him, even when we feel unsure. They show us how we can move from fear to faith and from failure to purpose. Fear can really hold us back, but Jesus' belief in us helps us move forward. We see that fear is a temporary feeling. It's a reaction to what's happening around us, but trust and belief in Jesus have the power to change us inside and out. Transformation happens when we listen to his voice and follow his lead. Jesus believes in us, and he doesn't wait for us to be perfect or to have it all figured out. He calls us to trust him and step out in faith, whether it's in a small act of obedience, trusting that Jesus can multiply what we have, or moving past our mistakes and fears. Jesus invites us to follow him and be transformed. So today, I encourage you to listen to that voice of Jesus. He is calling you to step forward, to trust, and to experience transformation in your life. Fear, it may try to hold you back, but remember that Jesus believes in you. When we trust him and follow his lead, we move from fear to faith, from stuck to strength. So go out, believe in one another, trust in one another, and let's get moving. Amen.